Where did you build that motivation? Where did you build that drive? How did you get that focus? How did you navigate the sea of challenges? And what drove you to wake up every day and kind of fight that? You know what I mean? Is it success? Is it financial success? Is it fame? What is it? What was that obsessive drive?
I think the obsessive drive comes out of the fact that as a region, we don't do a good enough job telling our stories. And I'm a mutt. I'm half Egyptian, half American. And I think a byproduct of that is like having an American father and an Egyptian mother, and the two families who are very different culturally. I think one of the ways that you bridge some of those gaps is through telling stories. And I certainly grew up in a household where both of my parents are such good. They're such like you sit at their feet kind of as they orate these long stories, kind of storytellers. And so that's always just, I think, been a part of me and my soul and what I gravitate towards. And turning on the radio in Dubai, and I'm sure you can attest to this, it's so bad. And it's painful, and we can do so much better, right? We can do so much better. And we're an extremely young population, right? 140 million people between the ages of 15 and 35 across the Middle East and North Africa. That's a huge population of people who don't have media to turn to where they can actually feel like it resonates with them, where they can see themselves in it. And that causes actually a lot of like existential crises. And certainly I experienced that, and sometimes still continue, where, you look at the prevailing narratives around you and none of it looks like you. And so it starts to question like who you are and what is valuable and all these things. And so, and the part that used to drive me crazy is that it's not for lack of these stories existing. It's just nobody who's making media in the region cares, right? I used to manage an incubator for startups in Dubai, and I would meet entrepreneurs, hundreds of entrepreneurs on a daily basis, and their stories are freaking incredible. And you never see any of that on the radio or on TV or in any of the magazines. So that's really where the idea of Kerning Cultures came out of, was this, like, we can produce amazing stories that get people to laugh and to cry and to feel a little closer together at the end of the day. So when you're talking about drive, I mean, that's where it's really come from. In terms of like all the boxes of, being female and Arab and a media company and trying to raise investment capital and all this stuff. I can't tell you anything else except that it was hard. And it's really a volumes game. That's my perspective of raising money now, is I think, in many ways it's like finding a husband or a boyfriend, right? It comes down to compatibility. It comes down to the chemistry that you have with this person. And I have a long list, we're actually raising again. I have a long list of investors that you speak with. And a lot of the times, their thesis is that they invest in ed tech or fintech or health tech. And it's only like one investor repeatedly over the years has told me, we don't invest in content. We only invest in the platform. And that's totally fine. And that's the way that you see the world. I see the world in a different way. I see the world where Spotify just paid Joe Rogan $100 million for a licensing deal. I see a world where Spotify just bought Gimlet Media, an American podcast company that had been operating for 5 years, raised $28 million in VC funding, and they bought them 5 years later for $230 million. Like, content is absolutely a profitable space. And it's because you're creating this incredible relationship with your audience, where as a listener, like, I feel like I actually know you. Like, as the host, I feel like I know you. You are this, adornments to how I cook and how I exercise. And when I'm doing the most boring things in my life, I can't wait for you to transform these moments for me and take me into these story worlds. And we're also the people who listen to podcasts, which I'm sure you guys know, we're typically young, we're educated, and we're affluent. Like, this is like the cream of the cream to monetize off of. So some investors see it and some don't. Yeah.
and very loyal. Like, I think that's one of the things that people don't appreciate, or they're starting to appreciate. And this is where the value is, that you have people that are listening to podcasts are like almost religious fervor towards the podcast that they follow, right? They sit and they listen from start to finish. whatever is being put out, you put out. And we experienced that. And you touched about Joe Rogan, and I think I could imagine like half the podcasters in this world, especially the male podcasters, I would imagine are kind of trying to emulate and trying to kind of be like him. But that's exactly what it is. And I think you just projected it in such a perfect way, which is that connection, that feeling that that person and you connect with them. And I think it's such an amazing platform because it creates that.